Here's Brody Brazil.
I do feel like right here, right now, in early December 2025, it is the appropriate time for me to put something on the record. At this moment, I do not have any good instincts about the fate of the future Olympic hockey venue that is still under construction for the 2026 Winter Games in Milan, Italy. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that there will be problems. I am certainly not hoping to speak any of this into actual existence. Like, we all want the hockey tournament to go off without a hitch. We all want to get entertainment and enjoyment out of best-on-best hockey for a couple weeks on both the women's and men's side. I would like to be wrong about my instincts right now, but it's hard to go against what I'm seeing, what I'm consuming, what I'm reading, what I'm putting together, what I understand in the bigger picture. All of this is kind of going against the arena being ready and the tournament happening with zero problems. And the latest example of just another development that's hard to fathom is that they built the rink. They built the ice sheet in Milan to the wrong dimensions. It's not an international-sized rink. It's also not an NHL-sized rink. It's somewhere in between with the width and the length, and I'll give you the exact measurements in just a second. Here's what we do know. The Santa Giulia Arena, still not done. I believe groundbreaking was December of 2023, so 2 years later, and it's coming down to the wire. It's getting to this situation where if there are any normal type problems that happen with construction or installation or just, building an ice hockey arena, the problems that happen, anything that could get in the way of a timeline would now jeopardize this tournament happening on time and starting technically in early February, although they're hoping to do a trial event from January 9th to 11th. Even that had to be moved back from this month to next month because they're very much behind schedule. There is still no precise finish date of when the construction team is going to hand over the venue to the Olympics side so they can do what they need to do to get the preparations underway. They don't have a finish date even right here, right now, with less than 2 months to go. And oh yeah, by the way, the holidays in between now and then. Again, the test events would have been nice to happen this past summer. Usually a building of this significance gets built 6 months to a year ahead of time, and they test it out and they get all the kinks out and they figure out the problems and they make it right. They make it foolproof for the actual Olympic Games. Here, they'll be lucky just to have it ready enough and deal with the problems as they come. The organizers have also said about this building and its construction and the delays and where they stand right now and trying to throw it all together, there is no plan B. Of course, that's just what they're saying. The IOC and the NHL players and the NHL, who's very much largely involved in this, but really it's the IIHF's responsibility to figure this out. There have to be some plan Bs, at least in people's minds. I understand that the organizers are saying there is no plan B, but there must be some other thoughts. Somehow, some way, somewhere, this hockey tournament is going to take place. It's just a matter of here, under the right conditions, or will they actually ditch and divert and go somewhere else? But the organizers are saying there is no plan B. They're also saying that things now, because of the time crunch, need to happen, in their words, in an impeccable manner. Basically, zero margin, zero room for error at this point. Work has been sped up, they say. Well, obviously, and they're getting daily updates with the progress. Yeah, you would kind of hope for that. You would have hoped for that like 6 months ago at this pace. The very first indications we got about these dimension problems with the ice rink in Italy actually were revealed on Canadian sports radio. Pete DeBoer is a longtime NHL head coach. He's also going to serve as Team Canada's assistant coach in this tournament. He said this, quote, "Actually, the ice surface, it looks like it's going to be smaller than NHL rink standards by probably 3 or 4 feet. I don't understand how that happened." By the way, I got to cover Pete DeBoer's San Jose Sharks teams of yesteryear. One thing I know about Pete, smart guy, he also has a law degree. Never pursued actually being a lawyer, but he knows things that he can say. He said this. He also realized, I think, after the fact that maybe he shouldn't have revealed this. It was not public information, not something everybody knew, because the way the hosts reacted to this, it was like, whoa, well, this is a first for us. Then he kind of not walked it back, but he gave a little bit more information. He said, quote, "I don't believe it's a huge difference, but I believe there is a difference, and it's on the smaller, not the bigger side." Essentially, Going smaller is more of a problem than if the rink were accidentally a little bit bigger. You could deal with that. It being smaller might pose more of a bigger challenge, so to speak, from the perspective of Pete DeBoer. Or at least that's the way I interpret what he's saying there. In terms of ice dimensions, I think we should go back and clarify this for everybody. International rinks have always been bigger. I say bigger, but really wider. 60 meters long by 30 meters wide. Man, it's just so much easier to do it in meters, right? 60 by 30, it's as simple as that, which is in reality 196.85 feet long by 98.4 feet wide. The international rink, always wider for the IIHF events. But since 2019, IIHF has been committed to just transferring over to smaller ice sheets and sizes for uniformity, for a faster pace, for cost and logistics. And if the best players are in the world are over in the NHL here in North America, you want probably the rest of the world conforming to those standards and preferences. So we've already been aiming at having the smaller rink and the smaller ice sheets for all the big tournaments like the Olympics. And the NHL rink size has always been 200 feet long by 85 feet wide. Right? So basically a 15 feet difference in width between the international rink and the NHL rink, and just a little bit of a difference in the length. Well, here's what I think they did in Milan. They made the mistake of using the international length and the NHL width, right? To get to basically 196 feet long as the rink by about 85 feet wide, and that's where they made the mistake. They mixed up these two, came up with the hybrid, and now they don't have a full 200 feet by 85. They've got just a little bit shorter than that, I think by about 85 feet. Here's some more information via The Athletic. The agreement between the NHL Players Association, International Olympic Committee, and the IIHF for the Milan Games called for hockey to be played on a surface completed to the specifications used in NHL buildings. It's quite simple. We're not doing this in meters. It's 200 feet by 85 feet wide. Simple as that, but that's not what we're about to get. The NHL did not comment on the situation Tuesday when reached by The Athletic. One source with knowledge of the league's dealings with the IIHF and IOC on the arena said that the league is looking into it, implying that the league was not previously aware of the issue. We'll talk about the difference of 3 or 4 feet, what actual difference that means, the factors at play there, but just understand that, wow, I mean, that's a pretty big development if the NHL is just finding this out like we are too. Construction is still ongoing, a little more than 2 months from the opening ceremony. One source well-versed on the building's status told The Athletic that organizers needed a, quote, big bomb, not just a fire lit under them with the clock ticking loudly. Wow. When a group of league personnel toured the site southeast of Milan in August, it found an arena still under construction with no infrastructure complete, including no roads built to the building. They'd also yet to break ground on the practice facility. This is back in August. I mean, we're only here in December. That's not that long ago. And the Olympics are not far away. The women's side starts on February 5th. It goes to the 19th. It overlaps with the men's tournament that starts on the 11th. It goes to the 22nd. And so basically this building, hopefully completed, or wherever the tournament's going to be, it's going to be at a building which is going to be consumed from morning to night with hockey games. Literally all day long from the 5th to the 22nd of February. Multiple weeks, every single day. Lots of hockey games, people coming in, out, the ice surface getting a clean sheet, getting scraped in between, all that stuff. It's intimidating to think what this building is going to have to take on, and there is still no precise date when this building is going to be ready and turned over. I'm going to start my takeaways by saying the obvious. I feel like we're already off to a very difficult start. The time crunch, the pressure to get this done. I don't know even the status of other Olympic venues for these Milan Games. Are they all elsewhere already done? Hopefully this is the last and the only problem that they're dealing with. Because this is a big one. The hockey tournament is a big one. We're off to a difficult start. This didn't need to be rushed, but it is. And now we're having problems like the dimensions of the ice surface and who's going to complain about that. It just all sets a really negative tone going into this. Changing, or I should say fixing the dimensions at this point, pretty unlikely, right? Like almost impossible. At this point, if there's any other problems, you can't go back and fix things. You just got to play with them how they are. And if we're talking 3 or 4 feet, I do agree with Pete DeBoer. It is going to be noticeable. I think there is going to be some concern about, what if a player is used to the extra 3 or 4 feet they have to the inboards and a race to the puck? They're just not going to have the same instincts that they're allowed to have on 200 by 85 like they always have been growing up and playing hockey at the highest of levels. So it's kind of like, I'll use the analogy of a baseball field. What if you move the fences in 3 to 4 feet from one game to the next and you didn't change the warning track and you're going into that fence and you don't expect it to be there and all of a sudden it's there a little bit earlier than you expected. Same thing on a hockey play, right? Those extra, or I should say the fewer feet with the same amount of strides, you don't have that extra stride or two. It's going to be different. I do think players are going to notice. They're just going to feel it. Even though it's minuscule, this is how precise they are. I just hope that nobody gets hurt because of that. Now, that's what we have to already know in our head. That's something we're going to have to think about here and hope that it does not happen the entire time because it's a shorter rink, even by a few feet. Gameplay being changed, that's one thing. Strategy being changed, that's another thing. But somebody getting hurt potentially because of accidental dimensions, like that is the absolute worst thing. That cannot happen. Let's hope that does not happen. I feel like it's time to set a deadline. I don't know. You want to pick 2 weeks from now, mid-December. You want to say, all right, December 15th, 16th, 17th, whatever. If the building is not to a certain spot by then, we got to have a plan B. We got to have a plan B. I know you said there's no plan B. We're going to go look over in Turin and take a look at that building that was last used for the Olympics of 2006. I know they've upgraded it. Can we go play the tournament there? Or should we pick out a different country? What's the IOC going to do? Is it time to set a deadline? I feel like that's the obvious thing to do. It might be the right thing to do sooner than later. And I don't envy the NHL in all of this because they're not the ones responsible for this. They're probably the experts in this. They know the most about this. They know how to fix this. They wouldn't have let this happen. But it's all their players going into this. Not all their players, but all their best players going into this tournament. With a lot of questions, some concerns, trying to figure things out. The NHL has the most to risk, but the NHL doesn't even get to say the most here. Like they don't want to overshadow the IIHF or the IOC. They don't want to kind of lay the hammer down here when it's other people's problems and responsibilities. But they've definitely got the most to lose in this, and I expect that sooner than later, they're probably going to say a few things about some of the amazing stuff that's going on. So again, to some degree, maybe not a big deal how it's going to be interpreted, but it is a big deal. And it also gives you the indication of like, if this is a problem, what else is a problem that we're about to encounter and discover with this building being put together so late in Milan? Let me know how you feel about all this in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up. That helps me, this video, and this channel. If you're new here, it's great to have you. I'd love to get you back next time. Hit that subscribe button so we can definitely do it all over again next time.